Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 30 of the Spawn Point podcast. We don't have Evie with us this week, and of course we don't have Steve with us, but we do have Andy, who is with us.
Hi, I am the last survivor.
It is literally, this town ain't big enough for the three of us. So we do have some things to talk about this week. Of course, this episode is sponsored by Virtual Gladiators. You can get 10% off Minecraft server hosting when you use the code Vectra, and that's for the first month that you get that. That's not forever. So we have an announcement before we talk about Bethesda is the first thing I'm going to talk about, and also campaign length, whether it's important or not. But the announcement is that this podcast is now available, and you might be listening to it on there right now, on Podbean, which is basically an audio alternative. If you don't watch the podcast or the video and you just listen to it in the background, this might be quite ideal for you. Also, if you get presented with a lot of ads at the beginning, because these videos are monetized, if you get ads shown at the beginning, you might get annoyed by that. This is also going to help. And also, if you like to listen to it on your mobile phone, you like listening to podcasts on there, this is going to be easier. So what you do is you go to, if you want to check it out, go to the spawnpoint.podbean.com. And when you go on there, you can see all the episodes. Now, the most recent episode will be free to listen to, but all the other episodes you have to purchase a premium pass. So what this means is, instead of you basically supporting the podcast with putting up with an ad at the beginning on YouTube or whatever, you pay to get completely ad-free content and to be able to listen to it on our mobile app that's also available. And it's $1 for $1 a month, which works out at $12 a year. Or if you do a year in advance, so you pay for 1 year, that's $10. So $10, which in the UK is, I think, £7, is it, Andy? Or something like £7.
So like £6-7, yeah.
Yeah. So what you're getting for that is you're getting all past episodes of the podcast. So you're getting 30 episodes straight off the bat, and then you're getting all future episodes for a year. So that's 20 hours of content straight away. And then in addition to that, you're getting another 20 or 30 hours. So you're getting over 50 hours of podcast gooey goodness. And you can just ravel in that. So yeah, $1 for a month and $10 for a year. And the mobile app is quite simple. You just go on your phone, go to spawnpoint.podbean.com, but put /mobile. Then you press the little middle quick find button and do add to home screen. And then it'll be on your that's how you do it on iPhone. I don't know how you do it on Android, probably the same sort of thing. But it will basically be easy to access. You'll just have a menu which you can pick through the episodes. And also, final thing to mention about it is you'll get access to episodes 1 day early. So usually the podcast goes up on a Wednesday, but you'll be able to get it on a Tuesday instead. So you'll get early access to it, basically. But that is all for the announcement. What we have to talk about, first of all, Andy, and we've talked about this off air, off recording, about Fallout and Fallout 4, whether that's ever going to happen. Now, this might actually happen.
It might.
It might, because you may, if you look at a lot of sort of gaming journalism websites and you sort of look for gaming news constantly on the internet, you may have seen something mentioned about Bethesda, which they have basically revealed that they're going to have their first ever E3 press conference this year, and it's going to be hosted on June the 14th on a Sunday. Now, just that announcement alone means that they must have something big planned. They must have. They must have something that they want to... Why would you say, we're going to do a press conference, but, haven't got anything to really show you, or anything that's going to... Because this is their first ever press conference, they're going to have something big. They want to go, start off, and it's one of the very first press conferences, I think, as well. So they're going to want to try and aim for grabbing the spotlight, as it were. I mean, a lot of other websites have kind of said, and people commenting on articles on the internet have been saying, this definitely means that Fallout 4 is going to be made. This basically confirms it, because that's going to be one of the biggest titles, because they're not going to announce a new Elder Scrolls, because hasn't been very long yet, and it's about time. But What do you think overall? Like, when you heard that Bethesda have a press conference, what goes through your mind? Do you think instantly Fallout, or do you think maybe they're just going to announce a new IP or something like that?
I mean, it's plausible, I guess, because it has been a good number of years since the last Fallout, hasn't it? Who said it previously? 2008 Fallout 3 was out, and then 2010 New Vegas.
Yeah, I mean,
that wasn't them though, was it?
Yeah, if you want to count New Vegas, that's 2010, and then Fallout 3 is 2008. But that's been a long time, and
it's been 8 years, hasn't it? I don't know. It is very plausible, but there's something just in the back of my mind that it's just saying, you know what, I don't know if it is going to be Fallout 4.
Do you think it's just gone to the point of being like a Half-Life 3 thing, where people just say, Fallout 4 confirmed, but it never actually happens, and it's just one of those things that every year goes by, it just becomes less and less plausible? Is that?
I really think it's definitely getting that way. Like, I think it is just getting hyped up because there's people out there really liked Fallout 3, and I don't know. Did you ever play the Fallout 3 New Vegas?
Yeah, I did. I didn't really play much of New Vegas. I think I don't know, because I saw it looked so similar to Fallout 3, and it was the same engine, and it kind of looked, I don't know, like people might, not like me for saying this, but just, it seemed very bland because it was like all these deserts, and it was just, a lot of it just seemed like recycled. It just seemed like,
well, I mean,
it just seemed like Fallout 3.
It's kind of,
I know, but
deserty though, isn't it?
It seemed to me when I first saw gameplay of it, it was like, this is Fallout 3.5 or something. It's not really the kind of game I was looking for, like a full sequel. But I did end up buying it on a sale about a year ago, and I only played about 5 or 6 hours of it, and I just kind of didn't. I don't know. I kind of lost interest. Fallout 3. I played a lot of Fallout 3, and that's why I'm kind of clinging on to the hope that this does actually mean that Fallout 4 will be announced. But do you think that people are just clinging on to the idea that this is their last hope? Like, they're just trying to convince themselves that this means Fallout 4 is on the way? Or do you think that they legitimately have a reason to believe that this could mean... Like, do you think people are kidding themselves, basically?
I think that it's definitely getting that way. Like, there's a lot, like, it's got a massive following since the Bethesda brought out 3, and I think everyone is just hoping beyond hope that it's going to be Fallout 4, because you know what, we need more Fallout games in our lives, and they haven't really brought out there's the Elder Scrolls Online, which people were just a bit
apparently they're dropping their subscription fees, I heard, or something.
Yeah, it's going to be a what's it? Not pay to buy, buy to pay. So you buy the game once, and then that's it. You don't have to pay any subscription anymore.
What was the one I said to you? Free to try, was it?
Free to try. But it's not free to try because you need to buy it.
Oh yeah, that's true. So it's free to look at.
Yes, free to. I mean, you can look at the box.
Yeah, you can look at.
Interesting.
Go on YouTube and watch gameplay. Yeah.
Now, I'm wondering if it is going to be something to do with that, but then again, why would they have a whole conference dedicated to them just saying, "Hey, we're going to do something with the Elder Scrolls Online"? That you don't already know about. You already know we're making it like free to play once you buy it.
Don't you think just an Elder Scrolls Online announcement, people be like, ugh, this needs to be something that people aren't going to sigh at or be like, oh, not this again. Like, if I would have bought this game by now if I was interested in it, like they need something new. They can't just they can't spend how long are press conferences usually? About an hour and 30 minutes or something?
Yeah, 30 minutes an hour, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, so they're not going to just spend the whole time going, Elder Scrolls Online, Elder Scrolls Online, Elder Scrolls Online. No. But there are other potential things. So, there's like Dishonored 2 maybe, is some people have been saying about maybe they'll see a sequel to Dishonored, which came out like 3 years ago almost. Or it would have been 3 years if they released one this October. And then Elder Scrolls 6, well, that's probably not going to be the case, because look how long Skyrim took to come out after Elder Scrolls 4. I mean, that was such a big gap, and people thought that's never going to come out, and then.
When was Oblivion out, actually? Which was for...
Yeah, I think it was 2004, was it?
Is it really that long ago?
It was, because
2006.
Oh, 2006. Oh, okay. Because I remember I was at school at the time, and one of my friends who was a massive fan of Elder Scrolls games was like, oh, they keep hinting at, like, an Elder Scrolls 5 is going to come out, and I was like, oh, no, and other friends were like, no, it's not, and yeah, Skyrim came out in 2011, and then Oblivion 2006, so that's...
It's like 5 years.
Okay, so that's not actually that long. I guess that's plausible then, isn't it? Elder Scrolls 6...
Yeah, it's been 5 years since the Skyrim, but the whole thing about Elder Scrolls Online, that kind of makes me, it's like, would they, seeing as they're trying to still get people to play that, would they bother putting out another Elder Scrolls game this soon after Elder Scrolls Online's been released? Because that's not been out that long at all, really, has it?
No. I mean, they're going to still want to... You know, it's a little bit like Nintendo releasing a new console when the Wii U's only been out for 2 years. It's like they're not going to want to launch something new when they're still trying to push their current thing, and that's not, you know, it's still fairly new, and go, hey, have this instead, because then people aren't going to play Elder Scrolls Online and Elder Scrolls 6, are they? They're going to pick one or the other, and they're most likely going to pick 6, because if they didn't like Online, or that's not their type of game, then
because there's a lot of people that really went to it just saying, oh, we really want something like Skyrim, but online. But I have to say, I've never actually played it, but from what I hear, people aren't getting the experience they really wanted. Or at least some people aren't.
Well, everyone has this idea in their head of like the perfect kind of, this is how they could do it. Like, because they say it about every game. I get worried when they say, you know, they should make Fallout an MMO. They should make Elder Scrolls an MMO. I should make Borderlands an MMO. Like, they have these games, and they tell people, they should make an online version, and they do, and it doesn't turn out how they'd expected, and they go, why did they make this? Well, because you asked for it. Because you kept asking for it, so they try to make something. You know?
Something like Fallout, it would be interesting to see it as an MMO, but I don't see it working potentially. I don't know. Unless you were really like, you're a vault dweller.
I think we previously talked about this a little bit, didn't we? We were saying about, you have to go, go fetch these 5 radioactive pills or something, you know.
That's the setting would be really interesting, but quite how they actually
I think it would do the atmosphere. I think
it's not gonna work potentially. I don't know. Just some of the older style MMO games just aren't. I don't think they're. We've gone past that nowadays because everyone is just gonna trend back to WoW because that's what everyone seems to do. They look at the next big MMO and like, this is gonna be amazing. They get disappointed with that. Like, let's go back to something I know because WoW's there, and you know, it's got WoW as the name.
So, I mean, there are other possibilities of having potentially remastered versions of games. Like, they could be a remastered version of Skyrim on PS4 and Xbox One. Even Dishonored, they could remaster that. Because there have been a lot of kind of, what do they call them, definitive editions, or, what's the other word? Definitive edition, or they have like,
just the remastered.
Remastered. There's so many of them that have happened. And so they could potentially, I mean, do you think, might sound like a crazy thought to some people, do you think that they could say, okay, we haven't got Fallout 4, but we're gonna make Fallout 3 on next gen or current gen platforms? I think that wouldn't happen, but because it's been so long, and also that would piss a lot of people off. Like, that would...
Yeah, I think that would really annoy people. But it doesn't look too bad in the grand scheme of things anyway. Like, and I don't know, how much would they really need to update it? Because it could look a bit better graphics wise, but I think because it's been so long from coming out to now, they're not even going to bother doing it. And there's also a lot of gameplay in it as well, like if you include all the side quests and just the amount of landmass. So that, being able to remaster that's going to take a ridiculously long amount of time. The same with Skyrim. Yeah.
They might as well make Fallout 4 at that, rate.
Yeah, that's it. Why
people would think that. They'd be like, why did you spend all this time? You could have been making Fallout 4. So
and the fact that Fallout 3 had a really shit ending as well. Like, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, even though it's like an 8-year-old game at
almost,
this point.
Yeah. 7 years old.
Sorry, 7 years.
7.
So I'm thinking we're next year already. It's a 7-year-old game, but the ending was just. I really didn't like the ending of Fallout 3.
Do you think it
was a good game?
Do you think Skyrim could be remastered? I mean, most people have already played it by this point that are interested in that, haven't they?
Again, like, I think that would just be. It wouldn't be worth their time and effort to remaster that. I think if they're gonna release something on a new console, they'll probably go down the lines of something like Square Enix, just going, "Hey, you know what you really want on the next generation consoles? Final Fantasy VII in its PlayStation 1 glory." Because
I mean,
we just want
a lot of the kind of some gaming journalists, well, I'd say some, but quite a few have been saying, "Oh yeah, most likely there's the theme seems to be it's going to be a Fallout 4 remaster Skyrim, or there's going to be an Elder Scrolls." Like, that seems to be that seems to be too predictable. Like, if you're going to do this is me, I'm going to my first ever press conference, I'm going to think, what are they not going to expect? What are they going to think? Oh, this is what they're going to expect. Let's flip the script, as it were, and let's show them something they've never seen before. Which makes me think that they're going to release some sort of new IP, possibly. Like, they're going to launch something. I feel like that might happen to myself, because I feel like it's too soon for Elder Scrolls. Fallout is a very kind of unsure thing. It's been such a long time. Dishonored sequel, well, we know what they're like with doing, the next game. They try to take at least 4 years minimum, and Dishonored hasn't even been out for 3 yet. It's been out 2.5, pretty much. So wipe all those off the table. Yeah, there'll probably be some stuff maybe about the Doom 4, which was supposedly, I think it was meant to be like a beta in the Evil Within. There was meant to be a beta code for that, and that never happened, or something. So they might have something to address with that. But I think that they're going to just show something that they haven't seen before and just be like, this is what we've been working on. It's not Fallout, it's not Elder Scrolls, but this is what it is. Like, do you think differently, or how do you think that
I think that, go down? Yeah, that sounds about right. It's either going to be that or it's going to be Fallout, but I really don't think they are going to be doing Fallout at this stage. And likewise, another Elder Scrolls game with the Elder Scrolls Online literally only coming out last year. I don't feel like they're going to be making another one of them so soon. So, an IP, but probably less likely another Fallout game.
Yeah. There's a small glimmer of hope. I mean, it gives it a bit of hope rather than, but it's not, people need to stop treating it as this, it's confirmed, because all they've announced is they're doing a press conference. They haven't said we're working on a Fallout game. They haven't said any of that stuff. They just said we're going to be announcing some stuff at E3, which could mean anything. They don't just make Fallout. That's the thing. They make loads of other games.
They're just getting the hype train ready to go. Choo choo! All aboard the hype train.
Could you imagine? They'll tease some game that looks like Fallout 4, and it'll be some new IP, and it'll be like, doof, and everyone will be like, "Oh, it sucks. It's not Fallout." Oh.
Yeah. Oh, guys, Fallout. I would love to have another Fallout game. I'm just worried what they're going to do with that.
Yeah, because they could literally give you a polished turd, and a lot of people would just take that gladly because it's been so long. And they just, jump on the hype train. And then they would just get it and then be disappointed. So, who knows? But I feel as though we should move on to the next topic, which is about the length of games, more or less the story, because you can't really measure the length of multiplayer and other stuff like that. But in terms of like career or campaign mode, the Order 1886 is said to be, roughly 5 hours for a playthrough that was leaked about a few weeks back, I think, which is kind of subjective in a way, because you got to remember the skill of the player and the difficulty of what they were playing on, and other factors, but we'll get to that. What do you think about, I'll just start off by saying, what do you think about Order 1886 being 5 hours on the leaked thing that they had, and also what do you think about games that are that sort of length?
I was trying to think over this like before we recorded, and I don't really have an issue with games being like 5 hours long, and that 5 hours that they're saying is the length is including the cutscenes as well, and there's meant to be a couple of hours worth of unskippable cutscenes in the game. So really, you're talking about 3 hours worth of gameplay if you're going exactly by that. But I don't have an issue with a short story as long as it's a good one. As long as the story's good, the game has some good mechanics in it, and also the price kind of reflects the fact that it's a shorter game. So, I mean, well, the Order was a full price release, and it's like, well, is the amount of playtime there that's just potentially like £10 an hour's worth of game time? Is that really worth the price to play the game? I think that's my sticking point.
We had Tales of the Borderlands. Tales of the Borderlands or Tales from the Borderlands?
Yeah.
We did, actually, in fact, episode 2 is meant to come out soon, so hopefully you guys can see us talk about that. Don't think there's actually a release date yet, but it was meant to be sometime this month. But we talked about the first episode of it. We gave it a lot of praise. We said we liked the writing. We said we liked the style. We liked just the general kind of way the story headed in and the characters. And mind you, that first episode, how long was that? It was about an hour to
2 hours.
Yeah. But with that being said, that wasn't a full price game. And so we have to be very careful with saying, we can't say to developers immediately, we don't mind games that are 3 hours long. We don't care, because, if you say that, then they'll be able to use that as an excuse. Well, you like these games are good, and they're that long. Yeah, but then they're not a full price game. So people might think, well, let's just make a quick 3-hour game and just say it's all about, it's just really good quality. But then, I guess the proof is in the pudding, really. Like, when I heard 3 hours, 5 hours including cutscenes for the Order 1886, I thought that's going to have to be an amazing, for the price I'm paying, those 3 hours better be like I paid for the seat, but I only used the edge, like that, that saying that we saw on that Steam recommendation, like I want it to be like, I paid this money and boy was it worth it. It was only a really short thing, but it was amazing. Like, I would play that over and over again. I would play that 5 or 10 times because of how much I enjoyed it. That's what it needs to be like. It's like, something can be short. Telltale game, for example, The Walking Dead, Season 2, Season 1, they're about 7 to 8 hours, around that sort of time. And I thoroughly enjoyed both those games. I thought I've just had a hell of a time. And I would probably replay. Would you replay
any of them?
I probably would, but not immediately. Like, I would feel tempted. I did play Season 1. Okay. Season 2, maybe not so much, but it might be just because I was sick of so much of the multiple choice games. But the first Walking Dead game, I played 24 hours of. So that goes to show
How did you play that much of it?
Because I played 4 different times and played at different scenarios. So I did one where I was really nice, just the whole way through, and I just basically let people screw me over, and I was just the nicest human being. And I did another one where I was just a complete asshole, and I was horrible to everybody, and I just didn't give anybody a second chance. And then I did one where I was kind of, I think I did 3 playthroughs maybe, and I did one where I was sort of a bit bipolar. So it would depend on what, I don't know, I just had fun with it. Like, and that time where you said, you can actually drive away with, I won't say who it is. It?
Oh yeah,
I'll try not to.
One?
That's the first one.
I know the
you could drive off with the person, and then I was saying to you, I don't know if you could do that, and you said, yeah, I never tried it, but I wonder what could happen. And it was just that curiosity of going, I'm going to try and do it. I'm actually going to be I'm going to be a bit deceptive here. I'm going to try and do it. And it basically left you with the same kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, so really, like,
Yeah.
your 3 playthroughs, was that in the time before, like, you realised, oh, it doesn't matter what I do in a Telltale game because it's all going to end up exactly the same way?
A lot of it was the illusion of choice, but that isn't to say I didn't enjoy it still. I mean, the first time I played it, I mean, the second time I played it from the first time I played it, there was probably about a 6-month gap. So I kind of had forgotten what happened anyway. So I think it depends, but it's more the fact that if you can come back to something, I mean, any game. If I completed Beyond Two Souls, which I still haven't completed, haven't really touched for a while. If I complete that game, I'm probably going to play it again, but not immediately. No game am I going to complete and then the next day go, oh, I'm going to play from the very beginning again. You know, I'll probably wait a few months. I don't know about you, but that's probably how I'd see it.
I mean, the only game that I was thinking about, that I've really, like, played a few times through, recently, is probably Portal 2. Like, The Walking Dead, I enjoyed that. It was, what, a £20 experience for, 5 episodes. It's about 10 hours worth of gameplay. And I think that price point actually worked out quite well for it. Again, same with Tales of the Borderlands. It's, what, 20 quid for the 5 episodes, and we've only got one of them so far. No, was it 6? Was that the Game of Thrones one?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones is 6. So I think that's quite a nice price point for the amount of time that you're going to have in it, and I don't mind just playing through that once and just being like, I'm happy with my experience. But Portal 2, that's about 8 to 10 hours apparently the gameplay on that is, and I've played a lot more. I've played through the story a good few times of that game because I've just really enjoyed it.
See, the thing is, okay, I'm going to ask you a question now. Would you play, if The Walking Dead and Tales from the Borderlands and Game of Thrones, all the Telltale games, if they were £40, $60, would you pay that for what you got?
I think I'd definitely think twice about it.
Now,
I don't know if it's, like, worth that price tag. Would you?
I don't think I would, because I feel so hesitant that I'd feel like I'm getting ripped off, even though it might be really good quality. I just feel like, you know,
I think it would be something I'd pick up in a sale at that price, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, and the reason why I asked that is because you got to remember, okay, Telltale games usually they're about 7 to 8 hours, usually on an average playthrough where you don't just explore every minor little tiny thing and take ages with your choices and just one straight playthrough. Now, if people are willing to say, okay, well, I'll play, that's how much game time I'm getting, and I'm paying about half the price I normally would for a game, and that's acceptable. Now, half the amount of playtime that is, and twice the amount of money. So it's basically, half as much in the order 1886. You're playing half as much in terms of how many hours of content you're getting, and you're paying twice as much. So just hearing that straight away kind of alarms me that if I'm not willing to pay for something that I thought was great and really good quality and was thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm not willing, and that was 7 to 8 hours, and I'm not willing to pay full price for that game, then am I likely to be willing to pay for a 3 to 4 hour experience, or however much it must be, for a full price game that I thoroughly enjoy? If I'm not doing it for that, am I likely going to do it for this? And that's really the question you've got to ask yourself, I think.
Yeah, that's really it, and I think that's massively the sticking point, the price, because like it's 45 quid for the order.
Yeah, I mean, and if you, if you go on the Xbox store or PlayStation store, it probably costs you even more. Probably costs you £50 or, 55 something.
Although, with this said though, even though the game was leaked early, it's a full price release, and some people are saying that it's the PlayStation 4's version of Rise, which was the Xbox One exclusive when that came out. it is still actually top of the charts this week for games.
Although there aren't actually many other games that have been released recently that are AAA that are there this week. So that is another factor. One other thing I just wanted to bring up is not for Telltale games really, because difficulty and skill don't really play a part. It's just, anyone can kind of jump in. It's just you make your choices and that. But so games like The Order, I mean, one, how skillful are you as a player? And two, what difficulty are you playing on? Because it's not just as simple as like, well, I'm this good and I play this difficulty. Someone who's really not that good at games but might be really trying to challenge themselves might play on the hardest difficulty, and that's going to take them a long time because they suck, because they're terrible. So their game time of completing is going to be longer. Or somebody who's really good at the game might not want to challenge themselves and go, well, I'm really good at these type of games, but I'm going to play on the easiest mode because I'm lazy and because I just want to rush through the content and I don't want it to be too challenging. So you've really got to kind of think about that as well, where the difficulty they're playing as, does it match their skill level? Or are they... Because sometimes I'll play a game and I'll think, at the time, I don't necessarily want to be like a try-hard and really concentrate, so I just want to kind of relax and take it easy. So I know I can do it on normal, but I might do it on easy just to start with. I've done that in games, and that's going to affect playtime.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something like this that really sort of flags up the fact that if you're going to be looking at new games that are coming out that everyone's really hyped for, it's probably worth waiting for it to come out and not pre-order again and wait for other people to actually have played it that are going to review it. So they can say, yeah, it's a really good game, but you know what? It's only 5 hours long, or it's really janky. It doesn't play that well. And actually get their view of it. Even like after there was all of the leaks as well, then surely that would like raise alarm bells. Like, maybe I should get someone's opinion, especially like with it having such a late embargo as well on the reviews. Like, what they really should have done, because it was a bit of a PR nightmare. What they really should have done is just gone, you know what? The game's been leaked. People are going to find out about like this 5 hour like time span that the game's potentially got. So instead of just going, people they're shouting at us, blah blah blah, they should have just gone, you know what? People they've got the reviews, they've got the copy of the game, just release everything early. Let people actually know the full like side of the story, because they're going to learn eventually, and then let everyone make their own decision from that.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of didn't be so strict about an embargo after stuff's been leaked anyway, then at least people, like critics, can maybe defend your game and say, you know what, yeah, okay, this was leaked, it was this kind of gameplay, but it was really fun. Going back to when we talked last week about reviews and talking about the fun factor, people who are critics might say, yeah, it's not a very, you're going to finish it quite quickly, but it's a really fun game. You're going to enjoy yourself for the time that it's worth. And they might have had some help there in kind of defending their game, because if they defend their game, it doesn't have much weight, because you'd be like, yeah, of course they're going to defend their game. They're just trying to sell it, But if you have an outside person defending it, it's got more weight to it. And I think they haven't really got a reason to defend it, because they're not trying to sell the game. It doesn't affect them. So maybe what they're saying is true. So
yeah, that's exactly it. So, I mean, they could have just sorted out a lot better than they actually did.
I mean, there's a game I always like to use when we talk about short play times is Fable 3, because I played that game, and this is just I feel like I can probably... I don't have to worry about spoilers, because that game is so old now. I mean, it's been around for a long time. But I guess just in case you haven't played Fable 3 and you're planning on playing it, then just don't listen to this part of the video. But I played through Fable 3, and Fable games generally are very short unless you make use of all the features and you kind of get a house and you get married and you do all the other kind of extra little things and all that. And I did do that for Fable 2, but Fable 3 it was a bit different, because I got through it really quickly, and you get to this point where you're the king, and you're basically going, right, this should happen. It's a little bit like Dragon Age. What's the newest one? Dragon Age Inquisition, where you're going, yeah, that person can live, or that person can do that, and you're making these decisions, and it kind of affects whether what happens, because there's this event happening, which basically either people could all die or they could all live. And it also affects like your personal wealth, like am I going to be greedy or that? And some things it kind of has extra sort of consequences. So I try to be a bit in the middle, like I'm going to try and save people, but I'm also going to try and make sure this happens, because if I try and save everybody, then this is going to happen, and I don't want that to happen. And I got to the point where even though I tried to save half the people, it seemed like everybody died anyway. So I was running around Fable 3, and there was no NPCs because everybody had died, and so I couldn't do all the extra beneficial features, like I couldn't get married, have a kid, I couldn't even buy things from the merchants or do the mini games where you make money, because they're all dead too. So everybody's dead, apart from like 3 people in the town, and so I couldn't do anything. And so that game took me about 5 hours to play through, and I felt really ripped off. I mean, yeah, I did enjoy those 5 hours, but I didn't feel like it was enough. And I guess that kind of falls back to the order, really. Yeah, okay, I might play 3, like, if that's shorter than Fable 3, and I thought that was incredibly short, then I'm going to be like, what? Like, okay, maybe I enjoyed it a little bit, but I don't think that's worth how much I paid, So... If it was half price, maybe I would kind of feel a little bit differently.
I was just trying to find out the original price of Blood Dragon.
All right.
Which is it only takes a couple of hours. According to Steam, I played it for 2 hours, and I completed the main storyline. Not there's a lot of side quests like any Far Cry game. But to be honest, they didn't really interest me that much, because it's like, hey, just take over this place or go and find all these collectibles, and I get really bored of that really easily. But the main storyline, a couple of hours, and I don't think it was too badly priced, and I was quite happy with however much I paid. I think it was about 20 quid or something like that. But I thought the way it was presented, in the fact that it was like a parody of like 1980s films and games like that, and there was just, it had enough entertainment value for me just to go, you know what, I don't feel ripped off by the amount of playtime that I've had from this and the actual quality of the game itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a game that I played which is an indie title which is called Gunpoint, and that uses the same engine as games like Hotline Miami and I'm trying to think of other games. Hotline Miami and Gunpoint, they use the same engines, which is Game Maker. And it's about a 2-hour experience. But there are other things where you can kind of have a map creator, and there's Steam Workshop, so you can download other people's levels and try and play through them. And you're basically a spy who has to kind of use a leap mechanic where you have to jump through buildings and smash the glass. You can kind of have a zip line, and you can not get detected, because if the guard catches you, one shot, you're dead. So it's like a super stealthy game where you have to try and make your way, like puzzle around the buildings and kind of get the intel and get out safely and stuff. And there's a little bit of choice in the game as well, but it's only 2 hours minus the Steam Workshop bit. But I hadn't even tried the Steam Workshop content that people have made, but just that 2 hours of the campaign that I played, of the story, I think for the game I must have paid about £5 or something, so it wasn't much, and I got 2 hours, and I was like, that was so much fun. Like I think that is kind of in terms of my favourite indie games, that is near the top of the list, really, because it was really short, but I had so much fun. But if they had charged, full price for that, like a full price game, I don't think I would have bought it, even though it was 2 hours I really enjoyed. I don't really think it can make up for it, because I've yet to find a game that I spend 2 to 3 hours playing that is full price, that I've gone, oh my god, like, my mind is blown. This is amazing. Like, I don't even know what life is anymore. This game is the greatest game that I've ever played in my entire life. I've never experienced that from a game that short that is full priced. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if it was, like I said, if the order wasn't full price, then maybe it wouldn't be as big of an issue, not just for me, but for other people as well.
Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, it all comes down to how much game you're getting for your money, really.
Yep, definitely. So just think about things like replayability, how much you're paying for it, how much content you're really getting, and don't just pre-order things before you've actually seen any kind of footage or trailers. I just want to say that we have somebody who watches our videos frequently who does comment quite a lot, Sterling Games, and if you're watching this, which you probably are, he left a comment saying that he purchased Borderlands the pre-sequel after watching one of our news videos. Now, the thing is, there wasn't actually gameplay on that news video, so I'm hoping, for your sake, Sterling Games, that you didn't just buy that without looking at any gameplay. I hope that you just heard about the game and then checked out some trailers and reviews and then bought it, because otherwise that's not a wise thing to do, I think, in general, is it? But
yeah, definitely do as much research as you can before buying, or just look at people's opinions of it, because that's always the best way to go.
Yep. Well, I think that has been all for episode 30 of the Spawn Point podcast. Of course, Ebby isn't here this week, but she will be making a return next week, so you can expect her back. We won't have two ghosts as we do currently right now. The podcast is haunted. But yeah, so she will be back next week, so you can look forward to that. But from me and Andy is, of course, goodbye.
Goodbye.